The concept of a missile launched from a submarine became feasible shortly after World War II. Regulus was the first practical outgrowth of the early development work. But the air-breathing missiles, with their inherent limitations, were merely a stopgap. The requirement for longer range, pinpoint accuracy, and greater payload capacity inevitably singled out the ballistic missile. Toward the realization of that objective, the early 1950s saw remarkable technological breakthroughs. Atomic propulsion for submarines became a reality in January of 1955, when the USS Nautilus put to sea for the first time. And for longer-range ballistic missiles, the application of solid-fueled rocket motors became feasible with the development of high-performance aluminized propellants and the reduction in size of nuclear warheads. By the winter of 1956-57, a workable design was fixed for the revolutionary Polaris fleet ballistic missile weapon system. And under the direction of a budding Navy Department management group called Special Projects, a government industry contractor team was established that within months would grow into a nationwide organization of over 20,000 separate contractors and government agencies. Quietly, behind the veil of strict security control, Polaris became a national effort, equal in scope to the Herculean Manhattan Project of World War II. Not just another submarine and missile were being built. The Fleet Ballistic Missile Weapon System was a totally new concept. As the concept became a design, the action that followed was quick and decisive. From broad farmlands that once produced a harvest of onions and tomatoes, factories arose that would produce the components of a missile. From the sterile furrows of California's exhausted gold fields, bunkers were carved and fitted with test stands to fire powerful solid-fuel rocket motors. And in a tree-studded New England valley, dust-free facilities were built for the precision assembly of critical guidance and navigation system components. On the building ways at the Electric Boat Shipyard in Groton, Connecticut, a nuclear-powered attack-type submarine, the USS Scorpion, was literally cut in half and her hull lengthened to allow inclusion of 16 ballistic missile stowage and launch tubes. She was renamed the USS George Washington, the first of 41 to carry the names of men who have contributed so much to America's freedom, strength, and character. The reins of management swiftly and deftly brought into control a cross-nation network of research, development, and production facilities. And with the assignment of top priorities, there would be no delays due to lack of manpower or materiel. Program advancement was rapidly accelerated, and achievement milestones were swept into history as the concert of progress steadily swelled. To design and build a ship is only half of putting her to sea. And in the case of the fleet ballistic missile submarines, not merely one ship, but a whole fleet was being built. Men to sail this fleet were needed, and as vital to the program's success as the priority procurement of critical materials. Also, only the best men would do. And of these, all must be volunteers, ready and able to face the rigors of submarine duty.
Completed the operation.
In the lecture room, endless hours of intensive theory study.
Let us take a look at the circuit that will control the
In laboratory classes, theory applied to exact duplicates of equipment and systems built to go aboard ship. Finally, operational training under conditions simulated by computer to match those to be encountered at sea.
Style number 45. 45. We shoot style 45. All right. Forget. Got it. All right, next style will be 15. All right.
Over 2 years of concentrated training often is required to qualify a man for critical jobs aboard an FBM submarine. To train the over 10,000 men needed just for the crews of the 41 SSBNs, and the thousands more needed to man the logistics support system, entire training complexes were built at New London, Connecticut, Dam Neck, Virginia, Charleston, South Carolina, and at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. For logistics support, stateside weapon system supply depots were built at Charleston on the East Coast and at Bangor, Washington on the West Coast. As the scope of weapon system operations expanded, logistics supply lines extended to forward area replenishment sites at Holylock, Scotland, Rota, Spain, and Guam. Within just 4 years of the George Washington's deployment on her first deterrent patrol, the Fleet Ballistic Missile Weapon System was in operation around the world. The USS Will Rogers is the 41st Fleet Ballistic Missile Submarine. Here at Cape Kennedy in the summer of 1967, she's preparing for her final and most important shakedown test. The firing of a Polaris missile far into the southern reaches of the Eastern Test Range. Below decks, the weeks of intensive preparation for this final demonstration are drawing to a close. The ship, the missile, and the men soon will be ready. Among the participants in these final preparations is Rear Admiral Levering Smith, Director of the Navy's Special Projects Office. Admiral Smith, since 1956, has participated directly in the development and growth of the Polaris system. First as Deputy Technical Director, then as Technical Director, and finally, since early 1965, as the Director of the Polaris effort. As with the 40 previous submarines, Admiral Smith is conferring with the commanding officer of the Will Rogers on the readiness of ship and weapon system for this last critical test.
Prime candidates are really ready, and